Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's interview. I'm here with Mary Delaney, an expert on inclusion, and we're here to have a quick conversation about challenging behaviour and what it can teach us. So before we get talking, let me just introduce Mary. She's a teacher, educational psychotherapist, trainer and writer based in Crosshaven and Cork. She focuses on finding practical ways to promote inclusion and supporting teachers to engage more students in learning, particularly on including those who seem unreachable. Her publications include What Can I Do with the Kid Who with Worth Publishing, Attachment for Teachers, also with Worth, and for OUP, Into the Classroom, Special Educational Needs. And she's co-author of the British Council Teachers course material on inclusion. So hi, Mary, thank you very much for being with us here today.
Hi, Neil, it's good to be here.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, I mean, this is a very interesting topic. So the idea is, exploring this idea of challenging behavior and what it could tell us about the needs of our students. So maybe a good place to start is by thinking, so what types of behavior do teachers find challenging? What do we mean by the term?
Yeah, I think in my experience, different things challenge different teachers, but across the world, there's probably certain behaviors that they often ask me about. I mean, obvious ones are the behaviors that maybe disrupt the class. So things like students who maybe can't sit still, who call out, who maybe don't follow the rules or don't seem to follow your instructions for an activity, who sometimes are arguing with you or arguing or not being very kind to other students in the class. But I guess also it's quite difficult when the student doesn't engage. So they seem demotivated or they don't want to do things, or they're very quiet and teachers can't find a way to help them. So I think they're the main ones, the kind of acting out, as we call behaviours, but also the withdrawn child that you can't reach very well.
Sure. So kind of extrovert, introvert kind of traits.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, why might it then be helpful for teachers to kind of understand what's behind these kind of behaviours, maybe the underlying reasons for them?
Well, I think if teacher's having problems with a student and their behaviour, the teacher can get very frustrated and often, sometimes the teacher feels even incompetent. They sort of feel it's their fault. And so I think one reason for maybe trying to understand the behaviour, quite simply, is it often helps the teacher to feel better about what they're doing and help. Sometimes they realize it's not all their fault what's happening, that sometimes with the best teacher in the world, some children come into school and they have other problems or other things going on. But also, if you can look at the behaviour differently, you can probably come up with different strategies. Because when we feel very negative towards a student because of their behaviour, it's very hard then to remain positive with them. And trying to understand their behaviour in a different way, I think, can help you feel better yourself, have a better relationship with the student, and maybe work with them on what's happening. And at the end of the day, come up with some strategies that actually improve the situation.
Okay, so maybe a good idea then is to not think about it or not name it as challenging behaviour.
Yeah, I think as soon as often we talk about difficult behaviour or challenging behaviour, and I think already there's a negative idea there. It somehow already makes it look as if we're kind of confronting the student, or they're confronting us, or they're causing us a problem. So I prefer to think of it, for some students, actually, it's quite a distress behaviour, because some of the students, for example, maybe not coping in class, they may be finding it really difficult for various reasons. And, that their behaviour is showing their distress, showing you that they actually need you to notice them and help them. Or maybe we might just think of it as a behaviour that is something the student has learned from another situation, maybe the outside environment. For example, if they live in maybe quite a dangerous situation or quite a inconsistent situation, they may have learned that you need to shout, you need to argue, you need to be loud to be seen. So if we can understand that, we understand that it's not meant for us. A lot of the stuff that comes at us as teachers is not really meant for us, and we shouldn't really take it personally, but as we're human beings, we often do. So I think if we can call it, distressed, or we can just call it as a behaviour that's showing us the student's need, then again, it's easier for us to stay calm and think of some solutions.
Sure. So really, we should look at these behaviors as a way of understanding our students' needs, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And, for example, a student that somehow was always calling out, it could be a sign that they really want to connect with you, but they don't trust that if they might not trust that. So they might think that if you're not talking to them, you've forgotten about them. And they may have had that experience of adults. Some students have an experience of adults that, unless they jump up and down in front of them or keep connected with them, they get overlooked or forgotten. So that's an example of, if you understood that about that student, you could, for example, name it and say, I haven't forgotten about you when I'm working with these students. I will come back to you. Or you could give them a special time to be with you, to say that that's your special time to be with me. But I have to go and do this now with the others, but I won't forget about you. You can just name it. And that simple naming of something can really help a student.
Okay. So really we need to kind of reframe our thinking about this kind of challenging behavior to give us a better insight maybe to the needs of the students.
Yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell, Neil. But the starting point for many teachers with behavior is it's making their teacher feel bad. So, I always say to teachers, the only reason I'm talking about this is to help the teacher feel better and feel more competent and maybe more you feel often powerless in these kind of situations. And you go home thinking about that student or thinking about that class, thinking, should I have done it better? So reframing it and changing your perspective to think, okay, what's it telling me about the student's needs? And then, or maybe looking at what's working sometimes rather than what's not working, and thinking, I'll do more of that. Or even just talking to the student about what you've noticed in a calm way. All of that is more possible if you can reframe your thinking.
Sure. Well, that's really some really insightful thoughts into challenging behavior, Mary. So thank you very much for sharing those with us today.
Thank you, Neil. And I hope it was helpful, and that teachers, as I say, the best advice I can give is try not to take things personally and try to realize that students, for example, students might behave like a certain way because they can't see properly, they can't hear properly, that maybe they have difficulties working memory, so they sort of forget stuff you've told them. They might be better speaking than writing. There might be lots of reasons that are underlying, sometimes even specific learning difficulties, that if you can think like this, you start to think of, okay, I understand it now, and I'll try to find ways to work with it.
Sure. Very good. Okay, well, thank you very much, Mary, and maybe we'll see you again for another interview soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Or maybe I might come to Spain the next time.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Neil.